Truth be told, until recently I hadn't really sized up Bluey's impact on popular culture, but apparently it's an impressively beloved and famous show, and after watching a few episodes and feeling how that show for little kids fixed childhood traumas I didn't even know I had, I became a loyal follower of that adorable functional family. Having said that, you might be wondering what the f made me make a video with such a disturbing theme. How the hell is it possible for a show as pure as Bluey to show us a corrupt and segregated society? And more importantly, what do I mean by segregated? Well, in our world, racial segregation is the separation of people into racial or ethnic groups in everyday life, be it in restaurants, movie theaters, bathrooms or schools, or life in general. It is maintained by discrimination and racism, and basically means that one group of people has many more opportunities than others, as in apartheid, Nazi Germany, American Jim Crow laws, or even the colonial caste system of the Spanish Empire during the conquest. So yes, it's almost sacrilegious to suggest something like this for the little blue dog society, but if it makes you feel any better, I didn't suggest it. The original idea for this video comes from a comment made by user siromurua383, where he postulates the following. Is society segregated? My theory is based on the fact that we see only purebred dogs in the more affluent areas of Brisbane, while in the more common areas there are more crossbred or non-purebred dogs. With this I imagine purebred dogs having the opportunity to get better jobs and better property, etc., like apartheid. Okay, I guess this is going to be one of those weird videos. If we analyze the reality of apartheid, we will realize that what Siro Murua proposes is much less extreme. In fact, such privileges are still prevalent in different corners of our society, even in places as diverse as Latin American countries. Skin color privilege is not as rare as it should be, and sometimes it is so normalized that it can even become incidental rather than systematic. But that's too long a conversation for this video. Apartheid in South Africa, on the other hand, was a system of racial segregation with separate places of housing, study and recreation for different racial groups. They had exclusive power to white-skinned people to exercise the vote in banning marriages and so on, even though they only made up like 21% of the population, something that is clearly not happening in Bluey. But even if we don't see something that extreme in that series, it doesn't mean we can't find some pretty disturbing stuff. During the episode The Quiet Game on Season 2, Bandit, Bingo and Bluey go to a toy store and cross a street with other dogs around. Well, in the background we can see a stray dog begging for alms, something that started a very strange discussion in several internet forums. For starters, it may seem odd that they would show a poor homeless dog in the background of a children's show, but since Bluey usually strives to show real aspects of life, it fits quite well with the show's message. In fact, he reappears a few episodes later in the ice cream episode, where he comes out carrying a sleeping bag. The real problem is that he is a crossbred dog, meaning he is not purebred. According to the wiki, it's a terrier crossbreed with something else, and that the only homeless dog is one of the only crossbred dogs we see in the whole series. Is curious. Several years ago, the Bluey fan community realized that the vast majority of dogs and dog families we see are purebreds. That is, they are dogs that only marry and have children with dogs of their own breed, and they have been doing that for generations. In fact, the first solitary instance of two dogs of different species in a confirmed romantic relationship came in the second season, precisely in the Quiet Game episode, where we see Cornelius on a date with someone of another breed and he curiously gives the homeless dog cash. This is a very specific detail, and under this new context it may be a sign of friendliness or camaraderie between dogs that are on a lower social level, since the stray is a crossbreed dog and Cornelius is on a date with a girl of another species. In fact, all the other confirmed couples were rigidly within their own breed, even with the secondary or filler characters we only saw in the background of the scenarios for 2 seconds. See, the race thing is never mentioned. Even the kids who ask the why of absolutely everything never ask why all the couples are the same race or why you can't marry someone of another. And before you say Bluey's family as such is a crossbreed, Bandit and Chili are Australian cattle dogs, just different color. Of course, all this has a very simple explanation, and that is that in order to have clearly distinguishable characters, the animators needed the families to have definite races, and that's it. There's no racist conspiracy or anything like that. It's not as if we have confirmation that in this world there was eugenics or a certain faction obsessed with the purity of lineage or cleanliness of blood. Right? Well, in the first season's Yoga Ball episode, Bluey, Bingo and Bandit play something called Hunters, where they mimic the scene from Indiana Jones and the Raiders of the Lost Ark, where a giant boulder chases Indy. It is very clear that this is a reference, and this would not be strange, except that the villains of the movie are the Nazis, which confirms the existence of the Nazis and therefore the Second World War in Bluey's universe. Now this by itself tells us nothing, but knowing that there were Nazis and a Second World War, and at the same time we have a society where the purity of race seems to be so important, it is strange, very rare. Let's remember that this taboo has become so normalized that it's not even questioned, and one of the few crossbreed dogs featured in the series is a stray dog. Some go so far as to say that maybe the Nazis won the war and that's why they are like this, but I think if that Indiana Jones movie exists, clearly the Nazis lost. What may have happened is that those concepts of racial separation and supposed purity of blood may have proliferated more easily in a world populated by dogs instead of people. Dogs where race is so notorious and is such a weighty concept. But this theory was more popular before the second season ended, and since then we've seen many more instances of crossbred dogs in the show's society. For example, we have Dougie and his mom appearing in the third season's Turtle Boy episode, and other dog couples of different breeds have also appeared, such as Chippy and Cherry or Frisky and Bradley, aside from various filler characters appearing in the background of episodes, so it seems like it's not such a severe social stigma. But on the other hand, if you were left in any doubt about the existence of Nazis in the past, in the episode Explorers a backpacking Doberman appears, which is not unusual at all, except that this dog is Argentinian and Dobermans are a German breed. The existence of this Argentine Doberman clearly refers to the massive exodus of Nazis to Argentina after the war, so we can consider that part of the theory as semi-confirmed. And apart from all this, there are some points that are extremely worth mentioning from an extreme conspiracy theory postulated on Reddit by the user ShaperPMP. If we look at these cross-dog relationships with a magnifying glass, we will notice that none of the dog couples have children, and they were almost always dating casually, at least until Frisky and Rad's marriage. Something notorious, especially if we keep in mind that Yugi's father never appears. Similarly, most of these couples are shown in an unusual way, as if they were illustrating family elements that the Nazis would not approve of. Cornelius is divorced, and the Nazis were staunch supporters of the supposedly traditional family, so that would have been frowned upon. Yugi is deaf. The disabled were a group actively persecuted by the Nazis and were sought to be eliminated, either by execution or by gene control. You know, keeping offspring pure and all that crap, controlling who has children with whom. Bradley Heeler is the black sheep of his family. He is a red and blue Australian cattle dog mix, which visually shows that he is not a pure version of any branch of the Australian cattle breed, which makes him a perfect candidate to get into a relationship with someone of another breed. Chippy is dating Cherry and is clearly shown as a young, irresponsible worker with conflict and problems in his relationship. It almost seems like propaganda, showing how chaotic these relationships between dogs of different breeds are, although it is a known fact that only having relationships between the same race and offspring brings a lot of genetic problems. The conclusion Shaper reaches is that this is a society where, contrary to being segregated, it is almost unthinkable to have a partner outside your breed, and the series reinforces this concept, although in my opinion, the latter happens by mere coincidence. Paradoxically, it is a fairly racially diverse society, but Shaper sums up his concept of the social order in Bluey with this sentence that could easily be the lesson of a murky episode about race. Everyone's differences make them unique and special, and we should all be friends. But so help me God, if you marry outside your race, we sterilize you. So in conclusion, if we overanalyze the society of the show and ignore that surely this all started just to have characters that were easily relatable, we find a society with a violent stigma about race and relationships outside of it. It is not exactly segregation, because clearly it is not forbidden, systematically, relationships between different breeds of dogs, but socially it is quite obvious that purebred dogs are the most common and have higher status and opportunities, while the crossbred dogs we find are not and happen to live on the streets or are disabled, with the strange detail that the only stray dog in the show is a crossbreed, not a purebred. Even dogs in relationships with dogs of another breed are shown in an unfavorable light, although there are some exceptions. Which brings me to one last question. What about the dingoes? At times there are characters who are dingoes, not dogs, and if that's the case for someone within dog society, I don't even want to imagine why it should happen to someone who isn't even a dog. Will they have fewer rights? Can they even be married outside of their species? Will they have their own gated community in the best style of humanity's worst societies? You know what? Before this gets any murkier and they take the video down, I hope you liked it. Like if you did, and subscribe for more videos like this one, though we'll try to make them a little less disturbing. Comment if you have another mysterious mystery you'd like to see solved, and we'll see you in the next video. Bye. Oh, and remember not to marry your cousin.